Dear devotees, welcome back again to our ongoing series on the glories of our beloved Braja, Sri Vrindavan Dham. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharane, Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastitadi Shatane. Please excuse me today, I have a little cold, but we will proceed. First, I'd like to say some more prayers in glorification of Srila Prabhupada. O glories to Shri Guru, the wish-yielding tree of love of God, whose manifestation is so astonishing. With the nice moonbeams of his knowledge, he destroyed the deep darkness of ignorance in my heart. He is the abode of bliss for the eyes. Seeing this fallen soul, he gave me the holy names, which are coveted by everyone, although I did not even ask for them. I am fallen and helpless, and my intelligence is totally corrupt. I do not even have a drop of pious merit. He instructed me in the treasure of the worship of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna in Sri Vrindavan. By showering me with the spotless prema rasa, which is given by Lord Gauranga, he fulfilled all my desires. Vaishnava Das weeps. I did not attain loving attachment to the lotus feet of my Gurudev. This is a beautiful poem written by a devotee named Vaishnav Das from the Middle Ages, actually. Jai Shri Prabhupada. So, for our last two lectures, we've been discussing the cowherd boy pastimes in the vicinity of Kamyavan. And I actually thought we had exhausted that material, but more research has revealed we haven't. So we can't leave Kamyavan just yet. And why would we ever want to? In Sri Brajriti Chintamani, chapter 3, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he glorifies Kamyavan, text 58. Actually, there's a few verses I'll recite. In the 12 forests of Braj, there are many pastime groves, where Lord Krishna, the moon of Vrindavan, enjoys his beloveds, and where the opulence is so great that it makes tears flow down Goddess Lakshmi's chest. To the south and west of Nandishwara Hill are Kamyavan Forest and many other beautiful places, such as Pramata Radha Tirtha, where the divine couple enjoy many confidential pastimes. Because of its many charming forests, groves, and lakes, where Lord Krishna relishes the sweetness of his pastimes, this place is known as Kamyavan. When the fragrance of the divine couple's pastimes of sweetness entered this place, the powerful goddess of the pastimes of supreme opulence hides. Hare Krishna, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki. So now that we've set the scene, as they say, let us wander a little more in this charming forest of Kamyavan. Now there's a famous lila stan, which means a place of lila, in Kamyavan called Atora, A-T-O-R-A, Atora, where one day Krishna and his friends became so absorbed in play that they failed to notice the passing of time. In fact, on that day, they played for 24 hours straight. The cowherd boys, they played for 24 hours straight. I sometimes say that when you're doing something you like, time goes by very quickly. But when you're doing something you don't like, time goes very slowly. You often see people like at work, for example, they're looking at their watch. So if you're doing something that's supremely likable, supremely likable, theoretically, you could do it forever. But that is possible only in the spiritual world. There, the residents can say to Krishna with full confidence, loved you yesterday, love you still, always have, and always will. Loved you yesterday, love you still, always have, and always will. That's Braj. So now the cowherd boys, they may have failed to notice the passing of time, but their parents did not. So when their sons had not returned with their cows at the usual time in the afternoon, the parents of all these cowherd boys, they climbed to the rooftops of their homes to look for that familiar dust cloud on the horizon that, when we've discussed how when Krishna comes back from the forest, back to Nandagram, etc., the cows, they raise this huge amount of dust so people can see Krishna's coming. So they climb the rooftops to look for this familiar dust cloud on the horizon. It wasn't there. So they also strained to hear Krishna's flute song. But it's described, all they heard was the sound of silence, which caused their hearts to tremble in distress. And when darkness started setting in, Mother Yasoda panicked, and thinking that a demon had, kidnapped and devoured her son and his friends, she set off into the darkness immediately, without even a torch to light her way. Now, of course, it's understood that Krishna is the love of her life, and she is the love of Krishna's life. So intimate is that relationship. Vatsalya Ras. We've quoted before, there's a beautiful, very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse number 20. Nemam rinincho na bhavo, nashir apyanga samshraya, prashadam libere gopi, yattat prapta vimuktidat. Quote, neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. Wow. So now, when seeing Mother Yashoda run off, Nanda Maharaj ran after her, and he restrained her. Then I was reading, he very quickly organized a number of well-armed gopas, cowherd men and soldiers, to search the surrounding forest for Krishna and his cowherd friends in two groups. One headed towards Kamyavan and the other headed towards Varshana. However, this grove, you could say, this special place, Atora, it's in a secluded forest, actually between the roads leading to Kamyavan and Varshana. Like, it's in the middle. So neither of these search parties could see or hear the boys. It was only the next morning when Nanda Maharaj heard the sounds of the cowherd boys shouting in great glee, in Atora. Only then he was able to find his son, Krishna, fully absorbed in playing with his friends. So, along with the soldiers, Nanda Maharaj watched Krishna and Balaram immersed in play, along with their friends, and even the cows. They were also playing with Krishna. In fact, the boys and the cows and Krishna, they were so absorbed that when Nanda Maharaj went to get them, he had to hold them firmly to keep them from playing. He had whoa, stop, wait, hold on. And when Krishna and Balaram finally noticed their father, they were just shocked. After offering obeisances, Krishna said, "Father, why have you come here?" Nanda Maharaj replied, "To bring you home, it's so late." And the Lord Balaram, he said, "But why we must go? We just got here." They've been playing 24 hours. "But why must we go? We just got here." So although 24 hours had passed, these cowherd boys were so absorbed in play, and the cows were so absorbed in watching them, that's also mentioned, that they thought only a few moments had passed since they had arrived. So then Nanda Maharaj, he quickly gathered all the boys and started for home. And on the way, the boys, they said to Krishna, "Krishna, it's not fair that we only got to play for a few moments." So it's written, actually, quote, "Just as a night of Brahma had passed as Krishna was absorbed in dancing with the gopis, so a second night of Brahma had gone by while Krishna was playing at Athora. Just as the night of Brahma had passed as Krishna was absorbed in dancing with the gopis, so a second night of Brahma had gone by while Krishna was playing at Athora." So if anyone ever mentions you're in Braj and someone says, "Let's go to Athora," does anyone know what happened there? Now you know. And you can meditate on this. By meditating on these pastimes, even in our aspiring stage of devotional service, we can be present in Braj. We can be present in Vrindavan. So we see in such pastimes that the residents of Vrindavan, they're not affected by time as we are. They have spiritual bodies that are eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. They never grow old, and thus they can play forever, like we mentioned in a previous class. It's interesting, yesterday I was reading my dear godbrother Hari Shori, Prabhu's a Transcendental Diary, Volume 1. And therein, Hari Shori writes about Srila Prabhupada. He writes, quote, "We were talking with Srila Prabhupada in his sitting room about growing old. And at one moment, Prabhupada got up from his desk, his eyes shone brightly, and he said very convincingly, 'I am not an old man. I will never grow old.'" Hare Krishna. I remember when I was young, hearing about adventurers in days gone by who traveled the world searching for the fountain of youth. Explorers used to do that. They used to go look for the fountain of youth. I remember reading that the fountain of youth was, how was it described, a mystical spring that restores the youth of anyone who drinks or bathes in its waters. And this legend became particularly prominent in the 16th century. And I remember very well there was a reading about a Spanish explorer, Juan Ponce de Leon. I never forgot that name, Juan Ponce de Leon, who searched extensively for this fountain of youth. I believe it was the year 1513, in a southern part of the Florida Peninsula in the United States of America. And he carried with him a description of the place where this fountain was supposed to be located. And that description read as follows. "The source is overshadowed by several gigantic magnolia trees, which, though numberless centuries old, have been kept as fresh as violets by virtues of this wonderful water." That's what place he was looking for. The source is overshadowed by several gigantic magnolias, which, though numberless centuries old, have been kept as fresh as violets by the virtues of this wonderful water. So that's what he was looking for. He never found it. And the proof is that he died. Hare Krishna. And when I was 9 years old, I made a written pact with 5 of my friends on the back of a print of a painting by a famous artist. His name was Lucas Charnock the Elder, and the painting was called The Fountain of Youth. I think he painted it in 1546. And we all my friends, we made a pact, and we swore that when we reached 18 years of age, we would journey out in the world and find the fountain of youth. Boys will be boys. So I hung that print of the painting on my wall, and I often stared at it. You know, like before you go to sleep, you look around your room, and I'd look at that painting. And the painting was of old people entering the waters of the spring on one side and exiting the other side as children. Somehow I was just fascinated by this concept of eternal youth. So one day I scribbled on the print, actually in the front part of the print, the words of a Disney character, Peter Pan. You know, this is all old Disney stuff, Peter Pan. And he sang in one song in a Disney movie. And Neverland will always be the home of beauty and joy. In Never Tea, I'll never go up, never go up, never go up, not me. I still remember it. And Neverland will always be the home of beauty and joy. In Never Tea, I'll never go up, never go up, never go up, not me. But then, as fate would have it, one day my father told me, "Son, you're growing older now. The fountain of youth, it's a fairy tale. It doesn't exist." So I got, I was depressed. But my father was wrong. My father was wrong. For when I was 19, 1 year past the promised date, because we were going to find it at 18, I found the fountain of youth by the mercy of my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. The process of Krishna consciousness, which takes us back to the spiritual world, which is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So by Prabhupada's mercy, all of us have found the fountain of youth. We didn't have to go exploring all over this planet. You have to go to the proper planet, Goloka Vrindavan. So we have found the fountain of youth. This is nicely explained. It's a little subtle, this verse, but I think you'll catch it. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavata Mahatmya, first chapter, verse 61. Vrindavanam puna prapya navi neva surupini jataham yuvati samyak preshta rupa tu sampratam. I went through Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Gujarat and became old. But when I reached Vrindavan, I regained my youth as a gorgeous young lady once again. I'm sure you can catch that. I went through Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Gujarat and became old. But when I reached Vrindavan, I regained my youth as a gorgeous young lady once again. Hare Krishna. So now, on another occasion, it's described that Nanda Maharaj, following family tradition, he felt impelled to visit Gaya to offer oblations to his forefathers. And as his servants began making, preparations for the pilgrimage, his son, little Krishna, saw bullock carts being loaded for the long trip. So Krishna asked his father, Father, where are you planning to go? And Nanda Maharaj replied, oh, we're going on pilgrimage to Gaya. There we will offer pindadana to our forefathers, as Lord Ramachandra did, and free them and ourselves from sin. What's more, we will see the footprints of Lord Vishnu. We'll see the footprints Lord Vishnu left there when he slayed the demon Gayasura. There's a famous pastime where Lord Vishnu killed this demon called Gayasura. And while doing so, the Lord's footprints were embedded in a rock at that site that we now call Gaya. It's in Andhra Pradesh. And pilgrims have been going there since time immemorial to offer pinda. Pinda means oblations for the deliverance of their forefathers. And we even read in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Lord Chaitanya, isn't it? He went there after his father, Jagannath Mishra, had departed this world. And it was there he met his spiritual master, Ishwarapuri. Anyway, so Krishna was not happy that he would have to leave Vrindavan, the acharyas say, and have to interrupt his play. So he proposed another solution. We see this pastime being repeated in different ways in Vrindavan. We discussed one time how the cowherd men, Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men, they heard the glories of the Ganges up north, so they wanted to go, but Krishna convinced them, you don't have to go. The Ganges is here in Vrindavan, want to see Ganga. So pastimes do repeat with slightly different changes in different parts of Vrindavan. That's the variety. Variety is the spice of life, spiritual life. So Krishna was not happy. We're going to go to Gaya? That means I can't play with my friends. So he proposed another solution to Nanda Baba. He said to his father, Father, just as all holy places are present in Braj, so try to understand Gaya is also present here in Vrindavan, in Kamyavan. And it's called Gaya Kunda. It's a lake. Gaya Kund. And then Krishna continued, O king, if you feel that you must offer oblations to your ancestors, even though they were all sinless, then why take the long route to Gaya when a shorter one to Kamyavan is just as beneficial, unquote. So Nanda Maharaj, he offered to go to Kamyavan on the way back. But Krishna insisted, no, Pita, let's go to Kamyavan first. So very soon a large caravan of Brajabasis set out for Kamyavan. And when they arrived in Kamyavan, Krishna brought his father to Gayakund. And there they all made offerings to their ancestors, after which the Brajabasis, they felt very satisfied that they'd done their duty to their ancestors properly. Now, one may wonder how Gayakund in Vrindavan can be equal to Gayatirtha in Andhra Pradesh without the presence of Vishnu's footprints, because really that's what makes Gayatirtha so special, that Lord Vishnu left his footprints there when he killed the demon Gayasura. Well, the answer is that the footprint of the Supreme Vishnu, who's Krishna, because all incarnations come from Krishna, is present at Gayakund, or very near to Gayakund, just a stone's throw from Gayakund, on Chandrasena Hill. A little hill there, Chandrasena Hill. So Krishna left his footprint there one time while visiting Kamyavan. I'll relate that pastime. It said that when Krishna came to Kamyavan, he was so enchanted by the beauty of the Kamyavan forest that he climbed up this famous hill, Chandrasena Hill, and he played his flute in praise of the forest. Krishna plays his flute for different reasons, but he was so enamored by the beauty of Kamyavan that he played his flute on top of Chandrasena Hill in praise of the Kamyavan forest. And what was the effect? It said that, stunned by the beautiful melodies he played, number one, the demigods and airplanes above him all fainted. Number two, all kinds of moving and non-moving living entities were stunned. Rivers and streams, which are liquid, became solid. And hills and mountains, which are, made of rock, they melted. That's the effect of Krishna's playing his flute. And Krishna himself, he slightly sank into the soft stone of that hill, leaving the imprint of his feet. So, yes, we can consider Gayakund as auspicious as Gayatirtha, because footprints are in both places. But in Gayakund, it's the footprints of the original personality of Godhead. So when he stopped playing his flute, when Krishna stopped playing his flute, the stone again became hardened, and that footprint was there, leaving a beautiful footprint actually of his lotus feet. It said, for pilgrims to come, pilgrims like us, to relish. So here's another place, Prabhus, put it on the list. We've got a long list now of places to visit in that upcoming Kartik Purkama. We will visit Gayakund in Kamyavan and see these footprints of Lord Krishna. Of course we must. I was reading that Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaitacharya, Madhavinda Puri, Madhvacharya, and the 6 Goswamis all have come and taken darshan of Krishna's footprints at Gayakund in Vrindavan. At Gayatirtha, Lord Vishnu killed the powerful demon Gaya by stepping on him. And the demon was liberated. And his body was transformed, how is it said, into a series of auspicious hills. But our acharyas, they say that Krishna created a Gaya in Kamyavan, which is even more sacred. How so? Because it was created not by chivalrous valor, as Lord Vishnu did, in creating that holy place in Andhra Pradesh, but with the superior touch of amorous love and the flute song's caress. Our acharyas say that Krishna created a Gaya in Kamyavan, which is even more sacred than Gayatirtha in Andhra Pradesh. How so? Because it was created not with chivalrous valor, as the Lord did in his form as Lord Vishnu, but with the superior touch of amorous love and the flute song's caress. Shri Bhadravumi Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Now, there's another wonderful pastime that took place on Chandrasena Hill in Kamyavan. And that is that one night, Krishna and the gopis were dancing in Kamyavan, and the girls, they became tired. And as they rested, Krishna climbed up Chandrasena Hill again, and to get the gopis to join him there, he played on his flute, which once again caused not only the stones and rocks on the hill to melt in ecstasy, but it's so cute, but the hearts of all the gopis as well. Now Krishna was expecting, as a result, the gopis would come up to the top of the hill. But what happened was that by playing his flute like that, his heart melted in love for the gopis. So he immediately, it's described, staggered down the hill in search of them, but not finding them. He couldn't find them. He ended up at a lake called Dhyanakund, where he became absorbed in thoughts of Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani. Actually, the word dhyana in Sanskrit refers to thoughts. So this is where that kund got its name, Dhyana Kund, because Krishna was thinking of Radha there. But by this time, Srimati Radharani had retired to a lake called Vivala Kund. Vivala in Sanskrit means bewildered. So this lake got its name, Vivala Kund, because Srimati Radharani had gone there, her mind completely bewildered by Krishna's flute song. That flute at that particular occasion had great effect on Vrindavan and then the residents of Vrindavan as well. So she went to Vivala Kund, bewildered by the sound of Krishna's flute. And it's written that as her friends fanned her with peacock feathers, she sometimes laughed and sometimes cried in her absorption, or rather being absorbed in meditation on Krishna. But gradually, by chanting Krishna's names and massaging Sri Radha, the gopis were able to bring her back to external consciousness and told her that Krishna was waiting nearby for her to resume their loving pastimes. But the acharyas say, this is very interesting, it's a little subtle, but the acharyas say that when her consciousness turned within itself, Krishna was with her. But when her consciousness turned outward to her surroundings, he was not there. When her consciousness turned within itself, Krishna was with her. But when her consciousness turned outward to her surroundings, he was not there. So in this state of bewilderment as a result of hearing the flute, Radha thought that Krishna was playing games with her, sometimes appearing and sometimes disappearing. Appearing within when she remembered him, but when she'd look around, he wasn't there. So in this particular state of consciousness, Krishna consciousness that she was in, she thought, oh, Krishna's playing games. He's appearing, then he's disappearing. So she became angry with Krishna. You appear, and then you disappear. This is the madness of love of God. So she became she became angry. So when Lalita Saki finally took Sri Radha for that rendezvous, which the gopis had arranged to meet with Krishna, Krishna stood up to receive her. But Sri Radha kept walking right past him, not even slowing down. She was so angry. So the acharyas say Krishna was like dumbfounded, like, why is she doing this? So he quickly ran after Radharani, offering both praise and apologies for any mistake he may have made, knowingly or unknowingly. But it's written, he was met only with stony silence. So then Krishna ran ahead of Sri Radha, and he knelt in the middle of the forest path, leaving her no room to pass on either side of him. Then he pleaded and he pleaded with her to give up her anger, her mana. And finally she relented. But she wanted to test her lover, Krishna. She wanted to test his affection for her, his love for her, his allegiance to her. So she said, this is really amazing. Radharani said to Krishna, Krishna, I have heard my beauty is not the ultimate. We have repeatedly heard speakers of the Puranas say that the feminine charm reaches its summit in Mohini-murti, the enchantress of self-controlled Shiva. Krishna, I have heard that my beauty is not the ultimate. We have repeatedly heard speakers of the Puranas say that the feminine charm reaches its summit in Mohini-murti, the enchantress of self-controlled Shiva. So Krishna, he fell to his knees again, and he assured Sri Radha that Mohini-murti's beauty does not compare to hers. It's not possible. But Sri Radha was not satisfied with these words. She wanted more proof. She wanted more evidence. She wanted to see Mohini-murti for herself. So she said, Krishna, Purnamasi Devi told us that you appeared as Mohini-murti from the ocean of milk. Please show us your Mohini Rupa and let my friends judge whose feminine wealth is greater. Let my friends judge whose feminine wealth is greater. So, to prove that Sri Radha was indeed the ultimate beauty, Krishna manifested his form as Mohini-murti. In other words, he just turned himself into Mohini-murti. She was standing there alone on the banks of a lake now known as Mohini Kund, because this pastime is taking place in a rendezvous place on the banks of a lake, and that lake became famous as Mohini Kund. Krishna just transformed himself into Mohini-murti. And draped in a golden sari and ornamented with diamonds, Mohini Devi at first stood alone. It's described beneath the moonlit sky as she cast a momentary spell over all the cowherd girls present. Draped in a golden sari and ornamented with diamonds, Mohini Devi first stood alone beneath the moonlit sky as she cast a momentary spell over all the cowherd girls present. Then she stood beside Srimati Radharani. And at that time, everyone present could see that Mohini-murti appeared to be like Sri Radha's shadow. And finally, all the, Sri Radha, all the gopis, they all nodded in agreement that the beauty of Mohini could never match that of Sri Radha. So, after satisfying both Radha and the gopis with the darshan of his Mohini form, Krishna resumed his original form as a cowherd boy. And confident of Radha's favor, he invited her to continue with their pastimes. Really interesting lila. One devotee has written, quote, as before, the divine couple and their associates roamed from grove to grove. From their pastimes palette, they painted the colors of Kama onto the canvas of Kamyavan with the brushes of their love. That deserves another recital. As before, the divine couple and their associates roamed from grove to grove. From their pastime palette, like artists have, with the colors, the palette. From their pastime palette, they painted the colors of Kama, transcendental love, onto the canvas of Kamyavan with the brushes of their love. Hare Krishna. So today, I would like to finish with the sublime words of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati in his little-known Viveka Shatakam. I think the devotee who translated, ISKCON devotee who translated that book, not so many copies were produced, but fortunately I have a copy. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati's Viveka Shatakam. Viveka Shatakam. Just to, pour some more nectar into our hearts, to get rid of all those nasty things that we don't want there and to awaken that love, which we're hearing so much about, and a state that we want to attain as quickly as possible and go back to the spiritual world. One time, one of my godbrothers said to Srila Prabhupada, I just want to, it was a nice sentiment. He said, I just want to keep distributing your books life after life. And on this particular occasion, Prabhupada said, no, he said, this is Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga is going to get worse and worse. You should try to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So hopefully, these lectures are assisting us in that way by purifying the heart and increasing our glolium, our greed for Braj, for Vrindavan. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati puts it so nicely. O Lord, by drinking the nectar of your transcendental qualities in the association of saintly persons, hunger, thirst, delusion, madness, anxiety, and all other ailments do not pierce my heart. Rather, by merging in the ocean of bliss, one forgets the whole world. Therefore, please tell me, how can I attain your door, which is resorted to by sages like the four Kumaras and others? Let me be any living entity in Vrindavan, amongst creepers, trees, bushes or grass, amongst the peacocks, skylarks, cuckoos, doves, eagles, vultures, or even amongst the cows, lions, elephants, rhinoceroses, porcupines, rabbits, antelopes, or bumblebees. O glorious Lord of Gokula, I do not pray for a human birth again in this world. Even a savage who beholds the shining arena of the rasa dance of the damsels of Braj on the banks of the Jamuna is better than I, who am situated elsewhere. I am so foolish that all I constantly see are the doors of materialists with frowning eyebrows and raised noses due to the intoxication of wealth. O Sharm, when shall I gladly roam the land of Vrindavan, constantly chanting your holy names, incessantly shedding tears, overtaken by love, with a faltering voice, my hair standing on end, having a gracious form as one of your girlfriends? O Sharm, when shall I gladly roam the land of Vrindavan, constantly chanting your glories, incessantly shedding tears, overtaken by love with a faltering voice, my hairs standing on end, having a gracious form as one of your girlfriends? So again, when we end the lectures like this with the words of such pure devotees, as Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, what more can I say but just to thank them for enlightening us, giving us a glimpse into these beautiful 12 forests of Vrindavan, whereby, hopefully one day by their grace, we will reside and see firsthand. So thank you. We'll be back in a couple of days. All glories to Prabhupada. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Krishna Balaram ki, the cowherd boys ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Shri Mayapur Dhama ki, Shri Goloka Vrindavan Dhama ki. Once again, let's take all the fallen conditioned souls with us. Why leave anybody back in this nasty material world? Jai Jai Sri Radhe Sharm. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.